Hi, I'm Sara Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn, what was the top story?
It has to be the shooting.
Yeah.
I'd say, why does Glenn make rules that we have to wear jackets and then not wear them? That would be my top story today.
First time I
also
forgot.
don't know why you're not wearing a jacket because it's 10 million degrees below zero.
It's hot in here.
It's so cold. Ain't true.
A ray of light amidst the shooting, and if we have time, news from Ireland.
Okay, all right.
I like that. Just
I want to be you. I really want to be you.
You're the first human being that's ever said that. Thank you. Trust me, you don't.
You're happy. He came in. We were in a meeting earlier today, and he was like, "Could I just come in and just watch?" We're like, "What?" He's like, "I've never seen you guys do the chalkboard off air. I'd like to just watch." He lasted about 2 minutes, and then he was looking for candy.
No, I got it. I was like, oh, fascism bad. I got it. Set back down.
Got a lot to get into, but first want to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. I got a viewer comment over the weekend, and they were like, yeah, Sara, we get it. You were fat. Can you please stop talking about it and
Blonde.
get to the news?
You were blonde, too.
I was.
I don't think that was real. Your fat was, but I don't think
the blonde was. The fat was way too real.
I think it was a hoax.
The blonde wasn't. Yeah, the blonde was not. But seriously, losing weight is a struggle. Keeping the weight off is even harder, which is why people yo-yo up and down all the time. And I know from personal experience. So what I can tell you is Riduzone helps with boosting your metabolism and controlling your cravings. They've extracted the good molecule from olive oil that does that and put it in that capsule. So it's worked really well for me, so I can speak for it. And we've got a bunch of viewers who came in and filmed these testimonials because it's working for all of them, too.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. So you can try it right now. Go to riduzone.com and use promo code THEBLAZE. That's RIDUZONE for you podcast listeners.com, and use promo code THEBLAZE to get 30% off of a 3-pack of bottles. And that's a 3-month supply right there. Okay, so Pittsburgh.
Has to be the shooting. The top story for me is the shooting, but how we covered it. I mean, this weekend was really sad, and we know why, but let me take you to a different level and a different perspective. We should have handled the shooter. The press should have handled the bomber on Friday. Instead of saying, it's Donald Trump's fault, it's Donald Trump's fault, it's Donald Trump's fault. Looking at that guy and saying, he is clearly unwell. He has been walking around for a very long time. He is, he didn't have any friends, didn't have a job. You want to talk about an isolated loner that is a perfect guy to spin up. It's him. What in society, besides the president, what in society are we doing with media and how we're covering it, and politics and how we're dealing with that? What is it that we're all doing? That should have been Friday. It wasn't. Saturday is even more tragic. Here's a guy who hates Donald Trump, is an anti-Semite, clearly unwell. Well, now we have 2 unwell people. Have you heard any discussion about mental health? Have you heard any discussion about how suicide rates are going through the roof? What is this? What is this? What's happening to us? And then I would really have liked to heard a conversation on how do we stop this? Forget about Donald Trump. You know, we can blame Donald Trump, not blame Donald Trump. I don't think you can blame him for either of those. We didn't blame Bernie Sanders for the shooting at the baseball diamond. And it wasn't Bernie Sanders' fault, even though the guy worked for Bernie Sanders. He was a nut. So you don't blame that. And the anti-Semitism, you really have to jump through hoops to blame that on Donald Trump. Can we stop talking about that? Is anybody else seriously concerned about our country enough to have a real conversation? Meet the Press asked me to be on yesterday. And I wrote them a letter and I said, I'm not interested. And they wrote back, no, it'd be really good. We really want your opinion. I said, I don't believe that anything is going to be solved. In fact, I think things get worse every time a news show or a cable news network goes on the air. It gets worse because no one's looking for an answer. You're looking for something to entertain. If we're looking for answers, we should stop looking to cable news and to these news shows, because they haven't given us one damn answer yet. And doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. And if you don't believe that these outlets are really truly unhinged, all you have to do is CNN, Joe Lieberman. They're trying to get Joe Lieberman to say that it was Donald Trump's fault. He says it's not Donald Trump's fault. And he also talks about how this is a great country as a Jew to live in. They don't want to hear that. Then you have CNN again, with today, I believe it is, with the rabbi of the synagogue. It's Donald Trump's fault, right? Donald Trump's fault, right? Donald Trump's fault, right? No, it's not Donald Trump's fault. They're just trying to get him. And when you can't pin it, what does Mika and Joe Scarborough do? They get on and they take one of his tweets, a perfectly fine tweet. I don't even understand it because it was all about the World Series, which I didn't even know was being played. All about baseball, okay? They take that tweet and say, this is a message to white nationalist anti-Semites.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't see this. What was it?
Yeah, the Cubs, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
How
right.
did they manage that?
How did they manage that?
Yeah.
He said it, then he explained it, then they went to break. She comes back and she says, I want you to know, I totally agree, and they talk about it. Here it is. It's Saturday. We've just had a shooting, and yes, he's come out and he said he's sorry, and he's mourning and everything else. But then at night, on the day of a national tragedy, he's just tweeting about baseball. He is sending a signal to all of the white nationalists and anti-Semites that you can just move on with your life.
Oh, my gosh.
This is insanity. This is insanity.
It's part of, I think, I mean, who knows what the answer to these things are. I mean, I think at some point when you have 350 million people in a country, there's going to be a few of them that do really crazy things, and people really hate that answer. They hate it, but I think it's true. Beyond that, though, I think that there is a solvable problem here, and we've talked about this before. When it comes to the coverage, there's this idea of just the obsession with this man. This man rules all of their lives. Donald Trump seems to drive everything that they think about. And I've seen a couple people make that point to reporters after the 5,000th consecutive tweet that has Donald Trump's name in it. And they say, well, what are we supposed to do? This is the most powerful man in the world. Here's a man that, unlike anybody else, is supposed to stand up and give us leadership on the way we're supposed to act. And as I was reading this, I thought, maybe that's the problem. The idea that we're supposed to we would have an idea of one man who's supposed to lead us in the way we act is a larger issue than one incident in particular.
Which will completely factor into my Irish conversation,
Oh,
by the way, coming up.
Good. That's what I was perfectly leading into.
Good tease.
I think I'm with you on this, Stu. I mean, our lives were not made better by focusing on every move that Barack Obama made.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why we actually banned his name on the
For the
radio
last
show and
4
find ourselves.
years.
Yeah, whenever we send it, we find ourselves.
Just out of curiosity, have you guys, I don't know if this came across your desk yet, have you read the new book by Ben Sass, Them?
Yes.
We talked to him about it. I have not finished it yet.
I'm reading it right now, and I think it's spot on. And the premise to it, from what I can tell, is that, society's this big, government's this big, and society has drifted apart. We've become very alienated. We've become very lonely. Social media doesn't seem to be helping a lot. And as a result, people are going unhinged. That's my take on it. I don't know if he has a chapter on insanity.
That's pretty much what he said.
Right? But I think that's the deep underlying problem we have. Now, I can say I don't think Donald Trump is helping in that regard, because he's not a uniter in any capacity.
But you know what's amazing is if you say he's not the problem, it's the immediate response is, oh, really? So you're saying he's a uniter? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
it's
that.
also falling in immediately. That's portraying that response of how dare you not agree with me on this thing, is furthering this us-them divide, which is part of the problem. We're all on the same team here. All of those people in Pittsburgh that got shot are fellow Americans and fellow humans, and that's absolutely terrible. And all of those people in Pittsburgh, we're with them and should be. And when we have those divides and people are trying to jam them in because it's entertaining or for anything else, that's very, very problematic.
And anybody, if that bomber would have been successful with any of them, we would have been the first to say, this is horrible, this is awful, we mourn with the victims, don't ever do this, what's wrong with us as a society? I don't know anybody that would have been cheering if those bombs would have gone off. We're not like that. Americans aren't like that. And the more they push, I mean, I've been doing some study on 1925 to 1939 over the last couple of weeks. And it's really amazing how this is all just repeating. But if you look, fascism, Mussolini kind of coined that term around 1915, really kind of 1922 is the first fascist state, him in Italy. There were only a couple of fascist states. I think there were 3 in the 1920s. 1930, there's a whole, you saw it today, a whole buttload. I mean, look how many fascist countries, not because of Germany, they chose it. Why? Because of economic downturn. The world goes to hell in true economic downturns in times of collectivism. Well, we're in a time of collectivism. A downturn is going to happen. They're natural. It's going to happen. If we aren't a peculiar and unique people now who aren't saying the unpopular thing, and that is, stop it. Stop it, all of us. And I'll watch over me and my family. You watch over you and your family. I'm not going to condemn you, but I'm not playing this game. I won't play this game. I'll talk about politics, but I'm not going to talk about the people. I want to talk about the bigger principle. We talked about this today on radio, that we keep talking about the politics. There was a study that came out today, said, what was it, 57% say they now want a third party. I'm kind of with Stu. I'm not sure I believe that.
But they all want a different third party.
Yeah.
They all do the Garden Gnome Party and the Socialist Party.
Correct. So they want a third party. They don't like these two choices. And the reason why is because the vast majority of Americans say that we no longer have principles in common anymore. That we don't. Only 15% of Americans believe that we have principles in common. But then they go and list the principles. The principles that they listed were global warming. The difference between rich and poor. That's not a principle. It's not a principle. That's politics. That's maybe a problem. That's not a principle. We must have conversations based on principles because all of our problems are being caused by a lack of understanding those principles. Those principles can solve the one with Florida, with the guy with the bomb. He doesn't understand the one thing: all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain rights. And some of those rights are life and freedom of speech. He didn't understand those two principles, and we don't understand them. We're not putting those back into place. What happened? He says they don't have a right to say that. I'm going to blow them up. And so what happens? On the same weekend, they take Gab, which I don't know anything about. I'm not defending. I'm not condemning. They just shut this platform down because of speech. The principle is speech. The same thing with the shooter in Pittsburgh. What's the principle? Forget about the politics. You have a right to practice your religion, and no one can take that away. Now, both of these guys are crazy, but we should be focused on the principles, not Donald Trump, not Bernie Sanders.
So what's your take?
Well, on the sort of treatment of this, I find it very interesting how a lot of us go to this idea, and you mentioned it with the media. We're talking about whether Trump is the one responsible, and he's maybe not responsible. They'll give you he's not responsible for the shooting, but we can say that he's adding. There are real-world consequences to the way he speaks, and the discourse is, I think overtly bad, right? I think we're not in a good place as far as that goes. But here's an example of it, and I just don't think the media sees this in themselves at all. This is a GQ reporter who tweeted to America and got kind of beaten up by it. She said, "In a world to my fellow American Jews, this president makes this possible here where you live. I hope the embassy move over there where you don't live was worth it." Which is a bizarre take. Glenn then responded to it, and she then posted one of Glenn's, George Soros monologues and said, "This is Glenn Beck standing with Jews." insinuating that again. I guess
'Cause
you're also responsible because you were critical of Soros.
And but I responded to her, that's not who America is. Stop blaming the president for everything.
Right.
This is a crazy person. It's not who America is. We're not anti-Semites.
But it was an interesting kind of example to look at because, you obviously, I pointed out that you won the Defender of Israel Award. You're well known, and many people who did point this out, by the way, that you are very well known for defending Israel and Jews and fighting anti-Semitism for a very long time, a very long record of it. But what I thought was interesting is this insinuation by so many in the media that just a criticism of George Soros would make you essentially an anti-Semite. George Soros is one of the most visible liberal and progressive donors in the world. He spent tens of millions of dollars of his own money, most famously starting with John Kerry in 2004, and has continued to fund things like the Open Society Institute that have funded a lot of issues, we don't, as conservatives, don't like. There are issues that I don't agree with, right? So, yes, I think that his funding is an issue that should be criticized, and his policies are issues that should be criticized. But the difference is conservatives don't like George Soros because of the policies he supports. Anti-Semites also don't like George Soros, but they don't like him because he's a Jew. They also don't like Ben Shapiro because he's a Jew. Well, Jonah Goldberg is a Jew, and they don't like him either. But conservatives like Jonah Goldberg, conservatives like Ben Shapiro. This is not a distinction that's difficult to grasp. And that's the biggest problem is they don't have the problem grasping it either. They know what they're saying is not true. And it's just as bad, if not worse, than anything Donald Trump tweets when it comes to discourse. It's dishonest and disingenuous.
It worked last time. Saying that Barack Obama was surrounded by socialists was racist. Got people to shut up.
I guess it did, but is every liberal criticism of Clarence Thomas racist? No, liberals should be able to criticize Clarence Thomas because they don't like his judicial rulings, right? They don't like the way he's a Supreme Court justice.
You're talking like an American, not like a politician.
I was going for politician, and I missed.
I'm a quarter politician on my mom's side, but we only do it on holidays.
Okay.
Back in a minute.
Quarter, huh? You dress up? You do the whole thing?
Put on the tie.
Thanksgiving election.
I shake with both hands and then I lie.
Oh, really?
I promise to go get a
I have some really exciting news to share with you guys. I finally got my iTarget Pro in the mail.
Have you used it yet?
Yes. It's
great, isn't it?
Amazing.
It's great.
It's so great.
Fun?
Yeah, it's so fun. And my dad he kept, have you gotten it yet? Have you gotten it yet? And they live out of town. He happened to be in town the day that I got it. So we set it up and he played with it, and we both were just in love with it.
It's like a real shooting gallery, but without any bullets, and you don't have to go anywhere, and it's fantastic. My family and I, when we go up to the ranch, because I just don't have time to go to shoot, a range. We're out every single day shooting. With iTarget Pro, we can do it every single day in the house. It's great.
Yeah.
It's better than the duck hunt from Nintendo that I have set up in my house just to
Let's
practice.
say that's what I'm working on. That and laser tag facilities.
It is way better than laser tag or duck hunt.
Oh, it's great.
You losers.
Oh, I'm sorry. No one's sending me any iTarget Pros. I'm so sorry there.
Right now,
You can buy one.
No, I don't think so. Can you? How do I do it?
Well, let me tell you.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can go to itargetpro.com, and then you can use offer code NEWS, and you save 10% off your order.
NEWS or NEWZ?
That would be NEWS.
Let me make sure.
We're not that hip here. That's itargetpro.com, and save 10% with promo code NEWS. Andrew, there was a crowdfunding website set up for the
victims of the Pittsburgh shooting. Fortunately, as truly heinous and terrible as the shooting was and everything that's happening after that, when these awful situations happen, there are good people that step in to try and help. And in this instance, some of the people of the broader community that are doing it, there's a couple of Muslim guys from the Pittsburgh area that started a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for the immediate costs of victims of the shooting. So this is like funeral costs, this is medical bills, that kind of thing. And they wanted to do it as a gesture of, this happened at a synagogue. We're Muslim, but we want you to know that we are sharing in your pain, and we want to support you as members of the community and as fellow Americans. And they initially, I think it was either today or yesterday, started with a request of $25,000 that they tried to raise from the Muslim community, and then far exceeded it. They've now, at the last I looked at it earlier today, it was like about 140,000.
Wow.
And they've now put the benchmark up to 150,000. It wouldn't surprise me if by now, the time that we're releasing this, they've already crested that.
I think if we see this update right here, if this is the one we're talking about, I mean, it's way above.
Oh, wow.
Holy cow,
654.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what I mean, this, as I said, this is a bright spot. This is people of multiple faiths and backgrounds all putting money in this, and just greatly exceeding even what they thought was going to be the level of generosity that they were going to get out of it. So well done, those guys.
Lots of people. I know my church on yesterday, Sunday, was talking about a interfaith march. So you have Church of Jesus Christ, along with the evangelicals, along with a mosque and a synagogue. All this, I think it's Saturday, doing a 3-mile march, each to each different church or synagogue or mosque, and just supposed to link arms and be together.
Wow, that's awesome.
Really cool.
So I know you were dying to get to what's going on in Ireland.
Yes, I am.
Okay, go for it.
I don't think I sent it, but if they could pull up a picture of Michael Higgins momentarily, I'd like to bring it up. There's Michael Higgins. Okay, so guys, Ireland re-elected President Michael Higgins. He is the man on the left there who appears to be maybe 4'2". So cute. He is adorable. I am a huge Michael Higgins fan. He's a lovely human being. But I think this is what I was over in Ireland about 2 months ago. There's him with the Queen, because and there's the vampire she's married to behind her. That's Prince Philip over there. So I was in Ireland about 3 weeks ago. I go back to Edinburgh every year. I used to live in Scotland, and I stopped over there to visit a friend and saw kind of the beginnings of this. First of all, this was the most civil election I've ever heard in my life, where it's like, so who's your president? Oh, Michael Higgins. He's great. Everybody likes him. And what I enjoyed about this, and what I hope America will one day do, is treat our presidency the way they treat theirs. So their president, Michael Higgins, is pretty much just a figurehead. He might control the military. I don't know that Ireland does that much.
I don't know. No, Israel doesn't have a military. Ireland doesn't have a military.
He might be royal. It might be that they get in a fight. They dispatch Michael Higgins.
Nobody wants. He's too cute. So
He's too cute. Who would punch that guy? No one. But I like that. To go back to your earlier point, Stu, we were talking about how it's not great to have the whole country focused on this one person. And I, like me hailing from a classical liberal, libertarian background, I view the president as the top bureaucrat. I do not see the president as some sort of divine appointee with a holy halo around him. But we've got to that point in American politics where it's gone from, this is the head of the military, to this person is the father of the nation and the seer and the embodiment of all that is good of American. And I think at that point, it becomes problematic. And on top of that, in America, what we've done, which I hope we separate, we figured out it's a good idea to separate church and state, and that's worked really well for us. What we haven't figured out is how to separate power and reverence. And I think those are very dangerous when they go together. And so I like Ireland because they've got power in Parliament, and everybody makes fun of Parliament and kicks them around. But the reverence is reserved for somebody that's real cute and a uniting figure that doesn't have power. So well done. Let's do that. Let's elect, I don't know, like Patrick Stewart as president. And,
too tall.
Yeah.
Too tall.
I think what's
Betty White.
Yes, Betty White.
I think that I'd go for. The thing, though, that's different is our president was not supposed to be. He was a guy who was supposed to, speak for the public. He was not supposed to be this guy who had that much power. And, I like the idea of somebody like a JFK that has the ability to say, we do these things because they're hard, or we have a rendezvous with destiny, FDR. I mean, it's good to have that. Just don't give them all the power.
All right, back in a minute.
We're coming to a town near you. We're going to be in Richmond. Richmond, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh on Saturday. All proceeds, I'm taking all my proceeds. I'm giving it all to the Jewish community in Pittsburgh, and then Cleveland on Sunday. Get your tickets, glennbeck.com/tour.
And you guys are leaving Thursday?
Thursday afternoon.
We're going to have the biggest parties while you're gone.
Bet you will.
Oh, man, that's going to be great.
Trash the house, and you're in trouble, sister. I feel like Dad.
I know, you are.